All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to get started. Welcome to the Financial Empowerment Network's August workshop, using FinTech to drive equity and support financial well-being. My name is Jennifer Quiroz, and I'm the Executive Director of the Financial Empowerment Network, and we're so pleased to have you all here today. Many of you are coming from here in Washington State, but I know we also have folks joining us from across the country. So welcome. Thanks for joining us. And as I said when we got started, if you could introduce yourself in the chat, that would be fantastic. A couple of items: live captioning is available. Use the CC button in your Zoom app to turn it on. And if you have any trouble, please let me know. We will be handling questions in two ways today. You can use the chat for questions, and I'll be helping to monitor those as they come up for Megan, or you can raise your hand if you'd prefer and come off mute and ask your questions, so whichever way is more comfortable for you. And then the webinar is being recorded today and will be available within a few weeks on our YouTube channel. A link to the materials was also sent out this morning, and I will put it in the chat in just a moment as well, so that if you'd like to follow along with the PowerPoint, you can do so. I want to take just a moment to talk about the Financial Empowerment Network for those of you who may be less familiar with what we do. But we envision communities where low and moderate income individuals and families are able to achieve financial well-being. And we do that through partnerships that support access to affordable, effective, and relevant services, products, and resources. So our process is that we are a connector and a convener. We create connections, disseminate evidence-based and promising practices, and bring resources to our network. We do not provide direct services, but we work with providers across sectors who are working on these issues. So I like to say we are the financial educators of the financial educators. Briefly, I'm going to talk about some of the work that we're doing and ways that you can get connected. So the first is financial empowerment integration. And this area of our work is really about helping providers increase their ability and capacity to offer financial wellness services. So, we offer workshops and trainings like we are today. And if you would like to take a look at upcoming workshops and events or past workshops, we do post them on our website, and this QR code will take you there. There are links to the materials from past workshops as well as recordings. You can link to them, or they're on our YouTube channel. So as I said, we're here to support folks no matter what your level of understanding around personal finances. Our goal is really to increase your knowledge and comfort as a provider and provide you with resources and tools so that you can feel more comfortable working with your community. Another way that we do that is through our Financial Coaches Network. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Donna, who is one of our co-chairs of that initiative, to talk a little bit about Financial Coaches Network.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. My name is Donna O'Connor. I am the Financial Capabilities Program Manager at HopeLink in North and East King County. And as Jennifer said, I am also the co-chair of the Washington Financial Coaches Network, along with Barbara Maxwell from the Blue Mountain Action Council out in Walla Walla. I didn't see Barbara get on. She may be here. And if you're here, Barbara, just give a wave. So yeah, we just wanted to take a moment to let you know a little bit more about the Financial Coaches Network. It's a fairly recent initiative with the Financial Empowerment Network. We formed earlier this year to connect the financial coaching community in Washington State, and to provide opportunities for financial coaches, financial counselors, and educators to gather on a regular basis so that we could network with one another, share best practices, learn from, and support each other. And we meet regularly on the fourth Wednesday of every month at this time, actually, from 2 to 3:30. And I know that not everyone on this call today and in this training today is from Washington State. But for those of you who are, and if you're providing financial coaching, financial counseling, or education, we would love to invite you to join us. And again, I'm going to drop this, and I'll drop a link in the chat if Jennifer, oh, she already did. She's right on top of it. We have an upcoming meeting on September 28th And again, at 2 o'clock. And the topic for that meeting is going to be strategies for self-care for practitioners. So we're really excited about that. And as always, with all of our meetings, we build in time at the end so that we can all network with each other and really make deeper connections with our colleagues from across the state. So just wanted to give a shout out for that. So if you're interested, please go ahead and sign up. And yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the network. So thanks so much. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jennifer.
Thanks, Donna. I realized that I talked about our workshops and then didn't tell you about the next workshop that we're doing either. So in September, our workshop will be on managing student loan debt. And it's very timely. The public, I can never remember the acronym, the Student Loan Forgiveness, Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Deadline is October 31st. And there's lots happening right now. As many of you may have heard in the news today, that there was an announcement from President Biden that there will be some forgiveness of student loan debt. So hopefully we'll be able to learn a little bit more about what that means as well and how that's going to work. So timely workshop in September. Join us, and I dropped the link in the chat for you to register for that workshop as well. And then the last thing I want to say about this is that we strive to provide really high quality, trustworthy resources and tools. And we're in the midst of redesigning our website. So coming soon, when you go to our website very soon, there will be updated resources that are current and up to date and available across Washington State, as well as a new statewide provider directory of those organizations that are offering financial coaching, counseling, and education. So we're really excited about that. Coming soon. The other piece of what we do is Bank on Washington. We are the lead organization for Bank on Washington, which is a national initiative that was developed to meet the needs of folks that are and underbanked, to get them connected to safe, affordable, and functional financial services. So we know that financial access matters, and so the CFE Fund developed a set of certification standards that financial institutions can obtain by offering an account that meets particular standards created with consumers in mind. So really meant to be useful accounts, low cost accounts, things like low opening deposit, low or no monthly fees, and no overdraft charges. So designed for folks who have limited or perhaps some troubled experience with banking. There are over 240 Bank on certified accounts across the country, including 12 here in Washington State. And so if you'd like to learn more about that, there are some links here for you to find more information, including a list to the accounts that are available in Washington and a list of the national standards. I will also want to highlight that there has been some work around offering accounts that can be opened fully online, which is a great option for some folks. And so there's a link to that site as well. And I'm very excited to let you all know, the last thing I'll say about Bank on Washington is that we are going to be hosting our annual Bank on Washington Forum this October 24th and 25th in Yakima. The theme this year is Mission to Action, Reconnect, Reignite, and Resilience. I'm really excited about the direction of the forum this year. We're really going to be focusing on exploring who are the and underbanked in Washington State, what are their full financial services needs, and how do we create solutions that will meet those needs for communities. So registration will be opening next week, right around September 1st. So please stay tuned, and I will drop a link in the chat as well for more information about that. All right, and then connect with us. There's lots of ways to follow what we're doing. We're on LinkedIn and Facebook, and there's the links. By the way, this slide deck is in the link that I sent out for today's resources. So if you didn't catch them, they will be there as well. And I will drop some other things in the chat. All right, so that's enough of me. I want to introduce you all to Megan Bolado from Change Machine. So Megan leads Change Machine's Fintech strategy, exploring opportunities to connect practitioners with the safe and inclusive products and services that support customers' financial security. She's worked in the financial security and economic inclusion space domestically and internationally for over a decade. Megan holds a Bachelor of Arts in International Relations from the University of Georgia and a Master's of Public and Nonprofit Management and Policy from the New York University. A native Atlantan, which is a new word, thank you, Megan, Atlantan, Megan recently returned to Georgia after almost 15 years in the Northeast Corridor. She currently lives in Athens, Georgia, land of college football, grits, and REM, all great things, where she spends her free time spoiling her dogs and pretending to garden. Thank you so much, Megan, for joining us today. We're very excited to hear from you about Fintech.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to see all of you, and I'm really excited for this presentation today. I know we have a big group and lots to cover, so we'll jump right into it. First, everyone can see my screen? Yes? Fantastic. All right. So yes, I'm super excited to share some of the, as Jennifer said, I've been leading the FinTech work at Change Machine for since the beginning, or the end of 2019, and I'm really excited to sort of share some of the stuff that we've been learning about over the past few years. Again, as Jennifer mentioned, this is a large group, but we do want everybody to kind of get the most out of this. So definitely interact, use the chat as much as possible, raise your hand if you want to voice something out to the whole group. This whole event will be so much better if we're hearing much more from you than you are from me. So feel free to jump in anytime. All right. So Change Machine, we are a national organization based in New York, but I am based in Athens, Georgia. Change Machine builds financial security through people-powered technology. We champion the aspirations of those who are most economically disadvantaged by oppressive policies and practices, namely Black and Brown women who navigate financial insecurity. Their success means success for all. So our vision is an equitable economy in which we all thrive. All right, let's get into it. First chance to type in the chat or raise your hand. When you think about FinTech, what comes to mind? No wrong answers. Is it safe? An app for that, Venmo? Yep. Mint, my least favorite. Not that Mint is bad. I just have never been able to get Mint to use for me. Online banks, Robinhood. Dun, dun, dun. Couple more. All right. So here at Change Machine, we very simply define FinTech as organizations or companies that use a specific type of technology to provide financial products or services to consumers. That is our working definition. If you have thoughts or feelings, feel free to type them in the chat or raise your hand. But that is the simplest definition of FinTech. There's lots of other definitions and other aspects of FinTech. So what are some of the potential benefits of FinTech or the potential drawbacks? I'm sure you all have thoughts and feelings about this. I did too. While you're thinking about this, I will tell you, prior to coming to Change Machine and leading this work, I had zero knowledge or experience with FinTech. So I also came in with lots of my own thoughts. Financial safety. Curious, Karen, financial safety as a benefit or a potential drawback?
Sorry about that. As a drawback, really, I mean, this is a concern. I mean, I want to make sure that I'm directing people to the right sources, that they've been vetted, that we're looking at the right resources for them.
Totally, absolutely. Ease of money management. Thank you, Jennifer. Access for people who aren't comfortable with technology or have low literacy. Yep, that is potentially a drawback. Absolutely. Access for people who may otherwise be shut out of the market. 100%, 100%. I'll get into this in a little bit, but at Change Machine, what we've really found is that fintech actually provides an opportunity to increase inclusion and financial access, particularly in places where there are banking deserts, or for folks who maybe are just facing systemic barriers or had a negative experience with more traditional brick and mortar financial institutions. Absolutely. All right. So and feel free to continue to type in the chat. This is casual. We're all chill here. And also I want to just say, pause for a moment. I apologize. It is exactly the time at 5:15 here that the sun just comes right into the window here in my face. There's nothing I can do about it. So if it gets hard to see me, I can turn my computer. In 2019, prior to me actually joining Change Machine, we did a survey of our customers. At the time, we were providing direct financial coaching to individuals across the country. And so we were able to conduct a survey, 235 customers surveyed. And of that, we saw a couple of common themes. So some of the advantages, having the ability to manage one's finances from anywhere, that convenience piece was really important to folks. People felt more in control of their financial lives. So when they're using fintech, they're able to access their accounts on their phone or kind of see everything in the immediate. They've kind of had a sense of more control. Products and services may be less expensive than traditional products. And we can dive into this a little bit later as well. But one of the benefits of fintech that is frequently touted, and I actually, from our research and work, definitely see this as true, is because there is no brick and mortar in many cases. There's often kind of just a small startup who's able to do a lot of work with a lean team of people. The cost of providing these services is much lower, so they're able to pass those savings kind of on to the actual customers. And then also more opportunities for finding the product that meets unique needs. So fintech, technology in general, these small apps, these startups are able to offer very specific, unique services to, say, somebody who is a recent immigrant or somebody who has recently returned from a period of incarceration. So lots of very specific types of products that meet people exactly where they are. Concerns are exactly some of the concerns that you all laid out. Lack of access. Fintech can feel complicated if somebody is not necessarily super familiar with it. Higher hidden fees is definitely always a concern when it comes to financial products or services. Inability to access customer support, particularly those who feel very comfortable kind of going in and having a face-to-face conversation. Just had a conversation with my mom yesterday about how mad she was that she wasn't able to call and talk to somebody and get the answer she wanted from a human being. And then privacy and data protection, always a concern. And then there's the bad actors that kind of rolls in all of these things. So these are some of the things that our financial coaching customers said in 2019. More recently, however, because as we know, lockdown changed a lot of things, including a rapid surge in fintech and a rapid surge in people trying to access services remotely. So Plaid and the Harris poll actually conducted a survey of their own in 2021. And so some of the things that they saw from that survey is that people felt, in order of priority, they felt that fintech makes it easier to track their finances. They felt more in control, which is what you also saw from the survey that Change Machine did. More choices. A lot of people said that fintech helped them to create habits and stick to their habits in a way that maybe they hadn't before. Saving time, so that efficiency piece, and then saving money, of course. Some of the other overall trends from that report, which you can access down there, it's actually fascinating. Between 20 and 21, the proportion of US consumers using fintech grew from 58% to 88%, which is a 52% year-over-year increase. About a little bit under half of respondents have said that fintech had a positive impact on their financial understanding, which is a really interesting kind of additional component to this. And we'll dig into this a little bit later, but the opportunity for fintech, not just to allow somebody to conduct day-to-day financial transactions as they normally would, but also to increase their understanding of their personal sort of financial situation and how they can navigate it well, has been a huge kind of, I think, almost unexpected revelation for a lot of people, including practitioners around the country. And then 7 out of 10 fintech users said that they use fintech. The more that they use fintech, the more confident they feel about their finances. Just some interesting data there. So a few examples of fintech, wide range of folks here. So I wanted to just kind of get into some specific. Fintech can include budgeting tools like Mint, day-to-day financial transaction support tools like a regular bank account that you can access on your phone, or things like Cash App or Venmo. Savings and lending products are also very popular with the fintech market. Mobile banking and check deposits. Tax preparation. We're at Change Machine just about to launch in the next 6 months. Keep an eye out in the next 6 months. A whole project, a 5-year project around tax preparation and remote tax preparation. Credit building tools, very popular. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to go that fast. There we are. So those are some like pretty typical examples of fintech that we see most people kind of accessing, and a lot of practitioners talking about with their clients, their customers, or their community members. So just to kind of ground that a little bit, this individual may download and enroll with Dora, which is a fantastic bank product that is entirely fintech. It's completely available in English and Spanish. It's totally free. Very simple, straightforward account. They're also backed by 5 credit unions, which is really exciting. So Dora is a great option if you have any folks that are unbanked or underbanked and they're looking for something that meets their needs. Or this person might use Venmo to send some money to a childcare provider or to a friend if they need to sort of pay back for dinner or whatever it might be. Or they might use Self, which is a fintech that is also that offers credit building loans. Just recently, Self partnered with Rent Track as well. So I think they're still kind of getting everything together, but folks can go to Self and sign up to have their rent reported or even their utilities reported. And then obviously Mint, again, this fantastic budgeting tool that everybody loves. I never liked, just couldn't get it to work for me, but that's okay. It works for a lot of folks. So here are some just like real world examples of how fintech is kind of everywhere, and folks are using it a lot for a lot of different ways of managing their financial lives. So just curious, what other types of fintech products have you seen clients or customers using or talking about and in your day-to-day conversations? Are people bringing things to you? Have you brought things to people in your coaching sessions? Curious if folks have seen other types of fintech products or other specific products come up in your conversations. Credit Karma, yes, comes up a lot. While you're thinking, I know that I've been working a lot with some practitioners in South Florida, and a lot of their clients or customers have been talking about sort of remittance services. So Western Union or Wise, different products and services so they can send money overseas. I'm shocked, no other products. Interesting. All right, well, after this conversation that we have today, payment, yeah, okay, so that's interesting. I did not include anything about buy now, pay later products in this presentation, but they are considered fintech products. And in fact, as I'm sure many of you know, the buy now, pay later space has gotten pretty wonky, a lot of differing opinions on whether a buy now, pay later product is actually kind of helping folks to afford products that they need in the moment that they might not otherwise be able to access, sort of like an alternative form of credit. Other folks on the other side feel like it is just another opportunity for folks to get themselves over their head with debt. Interestingly enough, some of the credit unions, I forget which one, maybe TransUnion, has opened up a buy now, pay later sort of product, which, this is my opinion, not Change Machine's opinion. That makes me feel uncomfortable that the credit bureaus are offering that, but yeah, it's everywhere. Buy now, pay later is everywhere. We'll see what the CFPB comes out with on that. All right, well, here we are. We're just cruising through, great. Okay, so Zelle. Yeah, so Zelle is very interesting. So Zelle is a different type of fintech product because you have to have a bank account, right? Your bank account has to partner with Zelle. And so I'd actually never really heard of Zelle until about 2 years ago, when we started doing this work and hearing people like use Zelle all the time. And there's a very interesting sort of trend. It's either based on just a little bit of kind of what we've seen, and this is not by all means like a conclusive or exhaustive study, but it seems that folks are either using Zelle to transfer money or to share money or whatever with friends or family, or they're using other outside of their bank account payment services like Cash App or Venmo or even PayPal. So it's kind of one or the other. And different folks have different reasons for that. Yeah, like PayPal, exactly. Different folks have different reasons. Some people said that they feel much more comfortable with Zelle because it's sort of endorsed by their bank. Other people don't feel comfortable with Zelle because it's endorsed by their bank. So it's a very interesting kind of fintech, but it is one that's actually behind the scenes. Oh, interesting. Seeing this link that Jennifer just put in here about money was stolen on Zelle and banks refused to pay. Interesting. Yeah, that is something that folks are concerned about. So yeah, it seems to go either one way or the other. So let's talk a little bit about the seal of inclusivity. So what we did when I first started leading this work is we realized that there's literally thousands of fintech products and services out there on the market, and it is impossible for any individual to know all of them or to be able to immediately say, like, this is the product that is going to, there's no one product, right, that's going to be a best fit for everybody. Everybody's needs are unique. Everybody's goals are different. And so with so many products and services out there, how can practitioners or individuals themselves sort of sort through all of the noise to understand kind of in a quick way, but then in a more thorough way, whether a product is really going to be safe and inclusive and a good fit for where somebody is right now. So we developed what we call our seal of inclusivity. And this is our set of standards by which we, a change machine, evaluate and vet products for all of these different things. So builds financial security, obviously, is the first one, fairly priced, inclusive and accessible, and then safe and transparent. I'm going to go through all of these now. Okay, so when a product comes up, when you see a fintech product, a commercial for it, or it comes up in a coaching conversation or another training or anything like that, the very first question to ask is whether the product actually builds financial security. I always talk to practitioners and say, like, there's no reason to recommend somebody to download and enroll in a product if it's not going to actually help them with their financial goals in a short, medium, or long term, right? So you want to be able to determine whether that product is going to actually do something. Otherwise, if they just enjoy it, great, have the app on your phone, but be aware of kind of the differences, right? So here are some of the questions that we ask, like when we're talking to fintech products as we're vetting them. How does the product define financial security? So if you're just on the website, do they have a definition of financial security? Are they talking about financial safety, financial well-being, financial health? Do they have a mission? Do they have a purpose behind them? Are they trying to solve for a specific problem or gap that they see in the financial services sector? Are there outcomes that they're tracking? Do they have numbers on their website? Do they have white papers or blog posts about how people have changed their financial security sort of lives as a result of using this? And is there any data around that? So essentially, what we're looking for are products that are designed to support customers' financial security and their ability to achieve their action-driven goals. The product lowers barriers to support a more equitable digital economy. All customers can have peace of mind that the product, if used appropriately, will positively impact their financial well-being now or in the future. So that's number one. Number two, fairly priced. So we say fairly priced because from a financial coaching standpoint, obviously, it's not up to us as practitioners or intermediaries to say this product is too expensive, you shouldn't use it, right? It's up to the individual to determine how much they see a value of a particular fintech product or financial product or service. But what we're looking for is that customers can expect that any fees or associated costs to use the product are clearly stated. So going back to that high or hidden fees, right? Customers can readily assess whether the product is worthwhile, will it give them more control, without having to invest more than they gain from using it. The benefit identified by the customer needs to outweigh the cost of the product. Thanks. Thanks. Have a good meeting. And then what we're also looking for is when you're thinking about the cost of the product, whether you're thinking about it for yourself or whether you're thinking about it for any of your clients, you're thinking about whether the costs being the time investment of learning to use the product, of enrolling in the product, of like having to check it all the time, as well as the actual monetary cost and how much all of those things. If it takes a lot of time, but it really supports somebody's sort of financial goals and they're excited about using it, it might be worth it. If it costs $3 a month, but they're getting huge amounts of savings as a result of it in 6 months, it might be worth it. It's really up to that individual to decide, but we want to make sure that it is fairly priced. So again, you want to look for what fees exist. What is the purpose of the fees? How are they justifiable? So what benefits are the customers receiving? And what data exists, if there's any to support that. Noting that, I do want to just have a caveat here. There are many fintech products that are sort of brand new, right? There are constantly new ones coming onto the market. So the data, existing data is kind of a tricky one. Some products are fantastic, but they're like only 6 months in, they may not have a lot of data. So be aware of that. And then, is there a tiered pricing model? And if so, what are the differences and the benefits for the different tiers, right? Like Mint or many of these budgeting products, they do have kind of, you can pay more and get more benefits or whatever. So thinking about all of these different pieces. So fairly priced. Inclusive and accessible. So this is kind of a tricky one, right? Because this is sort of the catch-all for everything. And this is really where you want to see whether a product kind of meets somebody where they are and their specific unique needs. And all of these needs are going to be different. There's not going to be a product out there that meets everybody's needs. But what we're really looking for here is, did the fintech company who built and designed the product, did they deliver it in a certain way that might meet somebody where they are in terms of like language? What languages is the product available in? Is the kind of UI UX design, is the platform or like the technology, is it easy to use? Is it complicated? Are there accessibility components? So is there an opportunity to sort of watch a video or listen to kind of instructions on it? Are there other kind of components that they've thought about? Does it allow for I-10 instead of requiring just Social Security? Is it a simple, quick registration process, or does it require a whole bunch of hoops to jump through? So you really kind of want to look for products that are designed, built, and offered specifically with low-income customers in mind, but also any customers that are facing any sort of barriers. So again, how is the product accessible? Is it mobile, web-based, or otherwise accessible remotely? How does it meet the needs of customers or clients? How adaptable is the product for folks with different needs? And what are the barriers to your product? Who wouldn't be able to access or use it? All right. And finally, safe and transparent. So the product maker is clear and upfront about what's offered, how it's offered, and how the customer can choose to access it now or in the future. This is really a lot about the business model behind the fintech product and less about what it does. So how are they talking about their product? How are they explaining what their product can do for the customer? How are they talking about how they make money and what they do with money? How are they talking about how they're collecting, storing, selling, sharing any data that they're collecting? Are there opportunities for customers to opt out or to opt in if they want to? So asking a lot of these different questions as you're looking at it is a really good idea. Are the terms of service and the privacy policies readily available? Are they super easy to read, or are they very jargony and complicated? Or maybe the product says that it's translated entirely into another language, but when you get to the legalese part, that part's only in English. So lots of different pieces here in terms of safe and transparent. And then thinking about how the fintech has evolved over time. Many fintechs, because again, in many cases, they start as smaller startups, but then they start, maybe partnering with some larger financial institutions or products and services that are a little bit trickier, that are maybe a little bit shadier. So who are their partners? How are they talking about all of that stuff? The safe and transparent piece is really important. All right, so those are our 4 kind of pillars of our seal of inclusivity. Before we jump into an activity that I think will be really fun, Curious if anybody has any thoughts, feelings, pushback, reactions. Great question. So the question that Ruth asked, is there a list of fintechs that we endorse on our website? So there's actually not. We have about 19 fintech products and services that we have partnered with, but for a variety of reasons, they're available on Change Machine's platform, our coaching platform, which is kind of a membership-based platform. One, that is just the business model of Change Machine, but two, we're aware that this is kind of a new frontier for us, right? Like for everybody in the nonprofit, particularly the financial coaching and the financial security space. And so we're trying to be really careful about making sure that we have a really good sense of how long a product is going to stay in business, how long a product is going to stay independent and not merge with another one. And we may in the future, but right now that's not something that we're doing. However, you want to connect with me offline, I'm happy to share them with you. There's many you probably are familiar with. Dora that I mentioned earlier is one of them. Self that I mentioned earlier is also one of them. There's lots and lots of products and services. I will also say before I jump into that activity that it is really important for Change Machine to make sure, because we are centering in our mission, we center the financial realities of Black and Brown women first. So 75% of the products and services that we have partnered with are products that are founded or led by Black or Brown individuals and or women. So that is a huge part of supporting that those individuals on the other side, from the entrepreneurial space, from the small business space. You're never, with the exception of maybe Self actually, but Self is such a great product, I don't have a problem with it. But we're not in the business of necessarily supporting any of these multi-million-dollar products like Mint. They can do their own advertising, they can do their own stuff. We're here really to lift up those products and services that are made by the people who maybe have shared a lived experience or looking to fill a gap for those that are facing boundaries or systemic barriers. So I will say that. All right, so we're going to jump into an activity, and I will, before we do all of that, I'll give you some instructions. So essentially, I'd love for you all to either on your cell phones, or because some people find the cell phone to actually the app store to be an easier way to research fintech products, or you can search for them online, which is fine. 2 fintech products. One is Early Bird, and 2 is Providers by Propel. And you're going to go into your groups and do some research, see what you can find out about these products. Maybe you've heard them before, maybe you haven't, and then discuss together kind of these main things. If you can look at this, our seal of inclusivity, if you can say, I don't know if this builds financial security or this seems fairly priced, all of this stuff, and then just kind of think about, like, do you think that these products might be valuable to the folks that you're working with in your communities? Do you see how it might help them to meet their financial goals or not? Or do you feel challenged by the website? Do you feel concerns about their privacy policies or anything like that? Kind of anything goes. This is just an opportunity to sort of explore what it might be like, maybe if somebody brought a fintech to you in a financial coaching conversation, so you can have all the tools and resources. So in a moment, we're going to jump into, I'll let this person in, jump into breakout rooms and give you about, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes. If we need more time, we can add more time. It's totally fine, because we'll discuss it all afterwards, and come back and see what everybody thought. Have fun. All right, I'm excited to hear what you all thought and your discussions. So let's start off with, well, first of all, before we go to any actual questions, any immediate reactions, any kind of like burning things that you all want to talk about before we get into some of the guided questions here? First question, did everybody have a chance to find both of these products? Awesome. I did a similar training with some coaches in Massachusetts back at the beginning of June, and it was very interesting. Many folks were not able to actually find providers.
Our group was only able to research one of the two.
Totally fine.
I like that we can find them both online and on our phones.
Yes. It's a good, that's a good point to think about when you're maybe talking about a potential fintech product with a coaching customer or client, is like making sure that you can find it in both places. And also, like, if you find it in the App Store, reviewing any of the reviews there is also a good thing to discuss if you have time, if you have the opportunity. All right, so this is kind of a free-for-all discussion, so feel free to jump in. What of the products of the ones, if you were able to do both of them or just one of them, what did you like or dislike?
You want us to just speak about it or put it in the chat?
Yeah, go ahead, speak about it or put it in the chat, whatever you feel more comfortable with.
Right. So my initial reaction was that, okay, another app that I got to download on my phone that I don't really understand and know about. So that was the initial reaction, is that, it just said get started with the download. So that was a drawback for me. But then we went to, the free, the facts, and started looking through there, and then, exploring the website.
And which one was that? Early Bird?
I'm sorry, it was the Early Bird app.
Okay.
Right. And to be honest, when we were looking for it, we came up with different early birds. One was about cannabis and that kind of thing. And so it was the logo recognition, that kind of, helped us get there.
Yep. And that's very interesting. Yeah, that's why there's so many products out there and so many things have similar names. So making sure that if you found a particular product that works really well for somebody and you want to talk about it with somebody else that you think might be a good fit, making sure that they're accessing the right one, because there are many similar names out there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
I can go. My group and I, we kind of spoke about it's good that, well, we only looked up Early Bird. We only got a chance to talk about Early Bird, but we really liked how it was kind of an investment tool for parents and families to kind of join in for kids. But we also kind of disliked how, we were kind of uncertain, is it just for investment purposes or educational purposes, right? We were a bit confused about that and a little bit skeptical too about, it's good to invest, right? But also, what about the educational portion of it? How to educate, people who are not well versed in investment and things like that. So,
yep, it's a good call out. Absolutely. All right, feel free to jump in or type in the chat about anything that you liked or disliked about either of these products. Anything about Early Bird or providers that particularly stood out to you in your group?
We were unsure in the Early Bird product if it was just you're putting the money in and they're investing it into different products for you, or if you had a choice. But neither, none of us really went beyond, when you're in an app, you can't go very far. When you're online, you can go a little bit farther. We had a little bit of both. But we felt confident with the providers because it was pretty much written out there, with the exception of if there was any charges. We still couldn't figure that one out.
Right.
But we also had one of our attendees had a family member who they had actually walked them through that product and that they were currently using it. So that was really actually a nice thing to be able to say, hey, and because of that, it's kind of like when somebody says, oh, I know about that, I've used that, or I know somebody, you immediately just like, oh, then it's fine.
Yep, absolutely. That's such a good call out. One of the things that definitely heard from clients or customers around the country, as well as practitioners, is that with if somebody else, a family member or a friend has experience with something, people are obviously much more likely to say, okay, this is something to dig into. And that's why it's like, it's a tricky thing, right, for practitioners, because as I mentioned earlier, there are thousands of fintech products out there, and some of them are fantastic and some are not great, but there's nobody who knows about all of them. And so it is kind of it's a bridge that practitioners or coaches have to kind of bridge that gap a little bit for folks to say, we don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about this. You may not either. Let's like use what tools we have at our disposal to determine whether or not it's good or not, right? And that can be a little challenging for folks. I'm just reading this comment from Philip. It was so yes, Early Bird is an UGMA account. And that age 18, the money can be used for by the beneficiary for anything. Yeah, it is subtle. So I'm going to get into a little bit about what each of these apps do in just a moment. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a little subtle. All right. And I apologize. It sounds like my dog has found other dogs outside, so she's barking a little bit. And then so before I get into each of these apps and kind of what they do and why we at Change Machine have partnered with them, I'm curious for all of you, if you were to recommend this product to your client, either of these products, how do you think it would be received?
I actually, I'm from Habitat, so we'll be doing financial awareness, financial education classes, and so I feel like I would guess that probably those who are online, I mean, like we have people who don't even use computers, had to go to the library to scan their documents to send it to us. But of those people who do use their phones, which a large percentage do, I would guess that over half of them would probably utilize that, the providers program.
Fantastic. That's great.
Hi, this is Sarah with King County Housing Authority. Between the two apps, I think that the providers app is most relevant to the type of my residents and the type of people that I work with. So that would definitely be one that I would introduce first before I would introduce Early Bird. Early Bird seems a little bit more higher level and dependent on your income level as well, if that's something that you would look into, or if you're thinking that far into the future to invest versus just trying to manage your own financial situation. So early provider seems like an easier thing for somebody to buy into. The website was really easy to go through. It had screenshots and pictures, which showed you kind of what the app looks like, and all of the products that it helps put together in one with the EBT and the SSI and those different things, I think would be of a lot of value for the residents that I work with. And then Early Bird would probably be something that we would talk about more in the future.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So as you're thinking about all these different fintech products out there, there are certainly products that are kind of like immediate, like this is going to be immediately helpful, like a bank account or a savings account or something like providers. And then there's others that might, after somebody kind of gets more comfortable with this and they're more used to kind of putting in all the information and kind of doing that exploring, that might be sort of more effective later on in their financial journey. So just reading out loud, Philip's comment, skeptical over providers, get paid early and showing 5-star ratings across 48,000 reviews didn't match what we saw in the App Store. Interesting. Yeah, that's a good call. It's a good call out. So let's talk a little bit about each of these products. So Early Bird, yes, Early Bird is an UGMA investment account for parents with children or guardians of children. And so essentially anybody can open it up. You don't have to be the guardian or the parent of the specific child, but you can open up on behalf of a child. And yes, it is an investment app. So you can put in a certain amount of money. And then you can also like send requests to family members or anyone else to add to that money for birthdays or occasions. They can do videos to sort of talk about, this is your birthday gift. This is the thing that we're giving you. And then the, yes, Uniform Gifts to Minors Act. So it's a little bit different than the other child savings account, because with an UGMA, when a child turns 18, they can take the money and use it for a variety of different things. It's not just, there's not necessarily rules around what they can use the money for. They can open a small business, et cetera, et cetera. So slightly different. I think Early Bird, one thing I will tell you is we tested Early Bird with, again, this group of practitioners in South Florida at 5 organizations there. And I did focus groups with clients and customers. And what was really interesting is in the beginning, many of these folks, I would say the majority of the folks that came to the focus groups were mothers, typically under the age of 35, all facing various barriers to kind of their financial well-being. So many low income, many kind of unemployed in many cases. And was in the very beginning, there was a lot of skepticism, right? There was a lot of concern. By the time, after 3 or 4 months of talking about different products and talking about products with their financial coaches, bringing these folks back to focus groups, many had actually decided to sign up because they felt like it was important to invest in their child's future, and they found that the app was really easy. There is an educational component once you're kind of in it. It does talk to you about like, what's your level of risk? They handle the investment for you, or you can choose if you want to kind of request certain types of investment, and there's different levels of risk. If you say, I'm brand new to investing, I don't know anything about it, give me the safest, easiest thing, they'll do that. There's like a whole kind of range that you can choose. And then Providers by Propel, for anybody that wasn't able to get to that particular one, I think is just a really fantastic app for any of your clients or community members that you're working with who do receive any kind of benefits. It is a free app, super simple. It kind of combines all of these different benefits, so they're all in one place. They are kind of starting, I think they're launching like kind of their own card or debit card. Is not necessarily a bank account, but it's a place where you can kind of get a card, a physical card from them, and use it to utilize your SNAP benefits, your EBT benefits, and it's all in the phone. Some of the other things that we've heard from folks that have been really helpful about Providers is that in this app, there's also opportunities for employment. There's local job opportunities. There's also recipes for folks that maybe want to think about how they can creatively like grocery shop and then make recipes for their family. So there's lots of different opportunities there with Providers. Really think it's a great app. So if anybody has questions about it, feel free to reach out to me. We're pretty close with Propel, the company behind Providers. They're doing a lot of really good work. Yeah. There's no cost for Providers for the basic services. There's no cost. I'm not totally sure about their debit bank account thing, but for the actual like management of benefits, it's completely free. Anybody can download it. All right. So I hope that was instructive and kind of interesting to sort of explore these 2 apps and kind of think about how you might find out whether an app is potentially predatory or might be a good fit for your people that you're working with. There's a lot of exploration that goes into all of this. And so I just wanted to give you kind of a taste and a flavor of what it might be like when maybe somebody comes to you with a financial product or service that's powered by technology, or you're thinking about integrating more of these options into your financial coaching. So let's dig into what that might look like. So a few promising coaching practices that we've learned over the past couple of years. Reminders that I'm sure you're all aware of, but just want to state it out loud for the record. Customers are never under any obligation to use or not use products recommended to them by their coaches. It's just helpful information. I hear from coaches and practitioners all the time that they feel uncomfortable recommending fintech products because they feel like I'm not familiar with them and my clients will do anything I tell them to, and I feel uncomfortable about having that level of responsibility. But it's important that when you're having these conversations, it's really just like, it's information, right? The same way that you might say, let's compare different bank accounts, or let's compare different options for savings accounts. It's exactly the same thing with fintech products and services. They're not under any obligation. You're just there to help them kind of navigate the world and think about the things that are going to be most important to them. Related, no product or service is going to be the right fit for every customer. Customer needs are unique and their needs and opportunities are unique. So many times I'm talking with organizations or groups of practitioners that say, we just want the one product. Can you just recommend the best product that's out there? And that's the one that we're going to recommend to all of our clients. And that's not the best thing, right? Because that's like the best thing about fintech products, and probably one of the more tricky things, is that there's so many of them out there. They're really kind of, there's an opportunity here to really meet unique needs. Use of products to support customers in taking steps to achieve their financial goals. So again, like, no reason to recommend a product like Early Bird to somebody who doesn't have any kind of children or minors in their life that they want to invest in. Maybe it's not the right fit for them, right? So it should always help them to achieve their financial goals. And then finally, evaluating whether a product or service might be a good fit is ultimately up to your customer or client. But you as coaches or practitioners can support the process by asking key questions, like some of those questions I asked earlier, and then I got a few examples coming up. Before I do that, I do want to talk a little bit about the impact of fintech. So sometimes, and definitely this has come through with the focus groups we've done around the country, mostly California, Texas, and Florida. So just to be fully transparent, there's different levels of the impact, right? Sometimes just using a fintech product, maybe even just downloading your bank account's like mobile app, can help somebody to feel better. They just feel good. They're like, okay, I've accomplished this. I've checked this off my list, right? And that is important. Then there's a cognitive aspect. So I kind of understand more what's going on. I kind of have a sense of where my money is going and how I'm spending it. I have better understanding of like all my debt and all of these things. And then there's a functional element, which is I see a tangible change in my life, like more money or less debt or better credit. The functional aspect can take some time, right? So when you're talking with a client or customer about fintech products, recognizing that there's a process here. You're not going to download maybe a credit building product, start using it and see an increase in your credit in the next month, right? It takes a long time sometimes to see these financial outcomes, but these other outcomes are just as important. So if somebody just feels good about it, great. That's a win, right? Because they're getting excited about their finances. They're getting excited about exploring something new. So I just wanted to call this out. It's not always about an immediate, tangible financial security outcome. There's other aspects that are also really important. So quickly, I'm just going to go through some of the different types of products that might be a good fit. So asset building products that support customer goals like home ownership, a security deposit, a deposit for a car, tuition, emergency fund, savings for immigration, any of these types of things. When you're looking at these types of products, you want to look for liquidity. So how quickly can they access the funds if they need it? I don't know if any of you are familiar with the old IDA products, again, the bank accounts, and like how quickly can you get to that money? Interest rates or monetary incentives. So like, what do the interest rates look like? Are they going to get like bonuses if they keep saving or things like that? And then always want to make sure they're FDIC insured. That is the most number one. I think all of my slides here say FDIC insured. That is the number one thing you want to look for when you're thinking about a fintech product or service, or someone brings one to you. It will always say on the website whether it's FDIC insured. So definitely take a look at that. Banking products. So for customers that maybe get a lot of checks because maybe they are an entrepreneur, a small business, and getting to the bank all the time is not always convenient. They want to be able to see their transactions or balances at any time from a phone or a computer, particularly helpful for folks that maybe work different hours or have lots of people that they care for in their lives. Or folks, as I mentioned before, who live or work in a banking desert where there are few or no financial institutions. Again, you want to look at fees, eligibility or enrollment requirements. Almost all of the fintech products that we have certified and partnered with at Change Machine allow for ITIN. Many require Social Security, but if that's something that's important to you, there's tons out there. Access to cash, so looking at their ATM availability. We just came across a new fintech banking product that actually provides reimbursements for at the end of the month for any out-of-network ATMs, which is the first time I've ever seen that, which is really cool. And then again, FDIC insured. Okay, credit products. So obviously these are great products for folks who have a thin file or no file, want to establish credit, are building their credit, or have a financial goal that requires some borrowing, like homeownership. You're going to want to look at collateral, loan terms for any credit building products. How long is it? When can they get their money? All of these types of things. Again, those eligibility or enrollment requirements, and then credit reporting. Obviously, I'm sure you all know the most important thing is to look at how many credit bureaus and which credit bureaus they're reporting to. And so if it's just one, it might not be the best fit. If it's all three, even better. But it does take a long time to get those institutions to accept this. So sometimes it takes a little bit, but want to take a look at that as well. And then debt products, anything that helps somebody to manage debt or borrow money, lending, consolidation, debt management. We have a fintech product that we really have partnered with closely called Spend Debt, which kind of does a rollover thing when you swipe and puts certain amounts of money into certain debts that somebody wants to pay off over time. So there's lots of different debt products out there. You want to look again at collateral, loan term, eligibility or enrollment requirements, and then all associated fees. So many of the debt products that we've come across, even if they're great, might charge like a $1 a month or a $4 a month fee. So taking a look at any associated fees related to debt products is important. Goals products. So this is like anything around budgeting products, spending tracking, any financial education, fintech products that you come across, anything that helps somebody to set, track, or achieve goals. Good fit for somebody who's interested in building knowledge skills or those habit pieces. They want to save more, but they're not totally sure where their money's going. They have a budget, but they want to make sure that they have somebody to help them. Lots of different people, like some people love getting those reminders. Hey, you've gotten to this part of your budget at this point in the month. Other people don't like that. They'd rather just look when they want to and see a graph. So it's there's a lot of different ways that this can happen. With goals products, it's really important to pay particular attention to ease of access and use, and that's going to be unique to every individual person, right? Again, I've said it many times, I do not like Mint. I've never gotten it to work for me. I use totally other budgeting apps. So if something doesn't work for somebody, even if it's the best product, they're not going to use it, right? So ease of access and use, really, really important. And then data and privacy. A lot of goals products require like connecting your different bank accounts or things like that. Some even like pull your credit report. So making sure somebody knows what is going to be connected and how comfortable they feel with all of that. All right. So a couple of just like reminders here when you're talking about fintech with your clients, your community members. Outcomes driven service delivery, ask the right questions. So it's not always about like, oh, I don't think any of my clients would ever use a fintech product. It's more like kind of thinking creatively about, hey, do you use Facebook? Do you already send money via Cash App? Are there other questions that you can ask that's sort of more broad that help people to kind of say, oh, this is actually not that scary, or I'm already familiar with this. I already send photos of my cats to my grandchildren all the time. So maybe I can learn how to do a mobile check deposit, things like that. So kind of thinking creatively about those questions, and then have a plan for collecting and tracking information. So have a plan for understanding whether your clients are enrolling in products or not liking products, and keeping track of that so that you can bring that up in coaching conversations later. Like, you enrolled in Self in this credit building loan. How's it going? Are you seeing an increase in your credit? Are you not seeing an increase? Are you liking this or you're not? This is helpful not only for your clients, but they're also helpful for you. So you can think about, okay, this really worked well. So I'm going to start thinking about this type of product or this product more with some of my other clients. And then following up again, very important. Did you like this? Did it work for you? Are you checking it regularly? Did you delete it? Have you even gone back to the app? This is all helpful information for you as coaches to kind of know what's working, what's not working, how can I change my approach? And then a few examples from the field, and then we'll have a little bit more discussion. So Change Machine has collaborated with NowCab, National Association of Latino Community Asset Builders, for the past 2 years, and we've done some demonstration projects with organizations together, 2 different rounds sponsored by Capital One, with organizations who are working, one in California, one in Texas, and another in South Florida, and really just working with these practitioners and these organizations to think about how they can integrate more fintech into their existing financial coaching programs. They've done surveys, they've done workshops, they've done all sorts of different things. And so we've been collecting what they've been learning. One of the things that they've learned that many of, and for the NowCab, many of the organizations that NowCab works with are folks that are recent immigrants or new immigrants. In many cases, maybe not documented. In many cases, maybe English is not a primary language for them. So a very kind of niche population here. But some of the challenges are inclusivity. So that language barrier, huge thing, the social security number, huge thing. All of the documentation that I'm sure you all are familiar with that kind of can be barriers. Familiarity or comfort with tech. We did have a couple of folks that are working specifically with older populations or populations that maybe don't have access to a computer of their own. Maybe they have to borrow a child's or a neighbor's computer, things like that. So just like getting that familiarity and comfort with tech, and then trust. In many cases, lots of mistrust of formal financial institutions or financial products in general. So getting over that hump, even with the brick and mortar, is a thing, let alone the fintech products. Some of the lessons we've learned, educational coaching is necessary to assist participants in many cases to help them use it independently. So again, that's those conversations like maybe they've started using a product in like 2 months and you just sort of say like, how's it going? Let's talk about it. Or maybe even in the beginning when you're doing the enrollment, maybe you do it together and ask the right questions and support them through that. Again, asking all these questions from the seal of inclusivity. Do you think this is going to help you meet your financial goals? Do you see a value in this? Is it worth the money to you, or is it just kind of a shiny new thing? Let's talk about it. Regardless of familiarity with use of fintech, visuals help individuals navigate complicated online platforms. So we learned a lot about this during lockdown. So many organizations kind of shifted and pivoted and started doing online videos for how you can submit your taxes to a Vita service provider without having to go in person. Lots of things like that. Many organizations, as a result of this NowCab collaboration, have started creating short videos, YouTube videos, Facebook Lives, things like that, where they're walking folks through how do you do a remote check deposit? How do you know if your phone has enough room to download a new app? These types of things. Again, pandemic help in the adoption, so that's kind of old information. Close relationships, as we talked about before, influence the adoption of fintech applications. So practitioners who have a really close relationship with their clients, maybe they're working together over a series of years, or like people's and their friends, their family members, all of this stuff can really help. And then again, population ages affects the adoption of fintech applications. We did do we released a paper and then a webinar that is linked here in the slides if you're interested in learning a little bit more. And we are just wrapping up our 2nd year. So we'll be having a webinar with our organizations coming up, I think it's September, as well as some worksheets and tip sheets that we put together to support practitioners and organizations. The other one, which I've also mentioned a lot, is Change Machine's collaboration with United Way of Miami and their partner organizations throughout sort of South Florida. Similar challenges and lessons, right? Increased cost of living and limited income. South Florida, over and over, what I'm hearing, and I'm sure I'm hearing this from, I'm sure you all are experiencing this as well, but I'm hearing this more from the practitioners in South Florida than I am from practitioners anywhere else in the country, that cost of living has really impacted. They're seeing significantly more folks that maybe were like low to moderate income, not necessarily extremely low income, but now they're experiencing potential homelessness or food insecurity. And so it's been a real challenge for these practitioners. They're seeing a much larger increase of people coming to them, and the challenges that they're facing are much more intense maybe than they've experienced in the past. Trust, again, concerns about privacy, documentation. Many of the organizations in South Florida are working with recent immigrants, so getting all the paperwork together. And then inclusivity again. So one of the things I hear from South Florida and Massachusetts all the time from practitioners is, can we get a FinTech app that's in Creole? I wish there was a FinTech app that was in Creole. I just can't find one. There's none that exists so far, but this is part of the goal here, is we're trying to push FinTechs to be more inclusive and to think about these populations that maybe are left behind. Similar lessons learned again, trusted relationships. Customers benefit from having multiple options. So Self is great, but there's also plenty of other credit building products that are great out there. So giving folks lots of options is always a good thing. Again, the videos, automated reminders. I know that there's a couple organizations in South Florida that started doing text reminders like, hey, remember we talked about this app? Have you downloaded it? Can't wait to talk with you about it next week. Again, age is a kind of differentiator in terms of FinTech adoption. And then budgeting tools are the most desired and helpful. So I've done a ton of focus groups down there, and the overwhelming thing that people are saying is they want something to help them track their finances. I will be honest, it's been very challenging for me to find budgeting or tracking apps that are free and available and inclusive. I haven't found very many out there. So I'm continuing to look, but that is one that is the most desired, more than anything else, is what people are looking for. All right, so that was a lot of information. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and then I have one more slide after this, but I want to pause and give you all a moment to ask any questions, share thoughts, reactions, pushback.
No, no questions. Great, how you say, great webinar, Jennifer. Thank you, because I thought it was going to be something entirely different. You know, I'm a bank on program manager, and I thought, you know, my thoughts are, I never expanded my thought around FinTechs and the apps that actually assist. You know, when I'm thinking about FinTechs, it's because I'm in this space of, you know, affordable and safe accounts. So thank you for that, this information, expanding my mindset. I appreciate that.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I've worked a lot with the Bank On group in Boston, and we've been having lots of really interesting conversations. So I'm glad. All right, well, I want to save a little time. So if you have questions or thoughts, feel free to jump in. But I want to share one more slide, and then I'll toss it back over. Wait, we did have something come in. Oh, fantastic. I'm glad you learned. I'm so glad. So a couple additional tools and resources, just wanted to share with you all. Change Machine, we have released a blog series on how FinTech is impacting the financial capability space. We've also created a series of short videos. If you guys don't know about the Biteable tool, it's fantastic. Biteable, it's fairly cheap. I think it's like $8 a month, and you can put together all sorts of animated videos. You can do voiceovers. It's fantastic. We've created a series that we'll continue to add to. That is great for practitioners or your clients or customers to just talk about some basic FinTech things, some basic FinTech concepts. Totally free. It's on YouTube. But other than that, you know, I think the biggest thing that I want to leave you all with, something that Jennifer and I have talked about a good bit. FinTech can seem really scary and daunting for everybody across the board, because there's so much and there's so many complicated pieces to it, and there's all this stuff out there. But realistically, FinTech's not going away, right? Technology is only going to be more and more integrated into our lives, especially our financial lives. And so particularly when you're working with folks that are low income or facing systemic barriers, it's important that we as practitioners who are in this financial security space kind of, for lack of a better word, get on board. Because if we're not helping people now, then who are already sort of at many disadvantages, if we're not helping them get on board to this FinTech space, you know, in 10, 15 years, they're only going to be more left behind. So even though it can be scary, there's also lots of safe ways and really amazing ways that FinTech can support your communities and clients' financial lives. And there is a little bit of an urgency to kind of get on board and help folks figure this out in a safe, inclusive, and effective way. So that's my plug. Again, I wasn't a FinTech person until 3 years ago, but now I'm like all in. So I hope you all are too. Thank you so much for your time. I will turn it back over to Jennifer. Oh, Venus, do you have one more question?
Yeah, just really quickly, is it possible for you to go back to the goals products? There was something that I missed at the end that kind of showed up before you switched, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. Let me quickly share. Why is it
while Megan is going through the slideshow, I also just want to first of all thank Megan so much for coming and joining us today. So much information and presented in a way that is just so relatable and understandable, like sort of demystifying the technology part of fintech, right? So thank you so much, Megan.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, this was recorded. The recording will be available in a few weeks' time. I will send out an email when it is available, so you should all get that. When you close out of Zoom, there will be a survey in your browser. Please take a moment. It's very short, but it's very helpful for us to know what other conversations you are wanting to have, and also for us to understand if this was useful for you or not, and for us to be able to report it to our funders so we can do more fantastic workshops like this one. So thank you for taking a moment to do that. Thank you, Megan. And then everyone, as Donna said at the beginning, next month, we will have our financial coaches network meeting at this same time. It will be back to our more informal networking, fourth Wednesday, 2 to 3:30. And then our workshop next month on managing student loan debt. I will send out a follow-up email after this with the materials again and some of the links, and I'll include all of that in it as well. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Megan, and I hope everyone has a fantastic afternoon or evening if you're on the East Coast.